Welcome to the Daddyhood Rocks podcast with John Wolford and Brandon Miller. We are here to encourage you, empower you, and strengthen you so you can engage, level up, and have fun being a dad. We are going to have guests, deep conversations, hilarious stories, and insights that will give you the strength you need so you can be the dad you gotta be. And now, here are your hosts, John Wolford and Brandon Miller.
Welcome to another episode of the Daddyhood Rocks podcast. We are so very excited to be here. We are here to help you guys, to inspire you, to motivate you. We love doing this podcast, John. I mean, I'm speaking for you. I assume you're happy doing this podcast, right?
I mean, I'm still here, so I guess you could call it happy. Yeah, I love this podcast to death. I love what we're doing here. I love that we're able to inspire and encourage other dads, new dads, young dads, even older dads. Man, I just love being here, being able to throw kind of, I guess you called it earlier, we're kind of the, we're not bringing the knowledge. We're just kind of gifting it to you
Yes.
on a silver platter that we've created. So I just love this so much.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it's therapy for us. It's comic relief for us since we're fifth graders. And yet I think there's a niche here for dads. I mean, we love it that moms have a lot of support, because being a mom, I think, is a hard job. Just a guess, just a hunch. And we're so thankful that you all, moms, that you have a lot of resources, a lot of things that are at your disposal to give you the boost you need. And you all do a much better job than us usually as far as forming those connections with each other that are life-giving and supportive. We as dads tend to be lone rangers, and we tend to go at it alone, and we tend to go at it blindly. And sometimes we're not as open to help, and we're not as open to connecting. So with that said, we feel like there's a dire need for not just episodes, but podcasts like this thing. Our tagline, we don't want to make it become so familiar that we forget the meaning behind it, but we're here to encourage dads everywhere to engage, to level up, and have fun being dads. And it's so important that we stay true to that. And man, I am so excited about this week's guest, who has such a unique perspective about kids, especially teenagers, than a high school teacher. And our friend and former colleague of mine, a colleague of my wife's, Mark Sikora, a high school history teacher. He's going to step up to the plate, and he's going to hit a home run. What a great interview with him. And before we pass things off to Mark, what are your thoughts on that, John?
I mean, I say this a lot. We have a lot of guests that are fountains of knowledge, but he really is a fountain of knowledge. It's yes, he is a high school history teacher, but he is so much dad within that. Yes. And he does such a beautiful job being dad. And so, yes, I say, oh, they're full of knowledge, but he really is full of knowledge. So I promise when I say that, I mean it. And it's just something you're not going to want to miss.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know what? Since we are the instigators and the initiators, we like to kind of get the plates spinning on the sticks on the stage. Let's hand things off to the guy who has that knowledge and wisdom and humility. Without any further ado, here is Mark Sikora.
Mark, would you please introduce us to your family and let our Daddyhood Rocks listeners know who you are and who your family is?
Sure. So Mark Sikora, live in Urbana. I don't know if I should say that, but
that works.
I have a wife, Nicole. We've been married for going into our 19th season, and then I have two daughters, Isabel, who is 17, and Chloe, who just turned 13, and we have 3 cats. There you go. That's our little place here.
Do the cats have names?
They do, unfortunately.
Yes.
Punk number 1. No, that's it. It's Wendy, Soka, and Murphy.
Love it.
And unfortunately for me, I'm allergic to cats.
Oh.
But if anything, to give you a clue about my existence, I'm outvoted pretty much at every turn. So we have 3 cats.
So you're really good at saying yes, dear.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very accommodating.
Oh, man. Well, so Mark, thank you for being a part of our show. So as far as your daughters go, so you've gone from, and so there are all kinds of different seasons of daddyhood. So you have, when you're a brand new dad, you don't know what you're doing. Then you have toddlers, and then, elementary school years. Now, so you just finished the tween years. So you have a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old. So as far as this season that you're in now, as far as your 2 daughters are concerned, what would you say your biggest joy so far has been in parenting your 2 girls, other than the cats?
Yeah, I wouldn't put the cats in that category for sure. You're right. As when your kid now, who's my oldest, is graduating high school, and it's one of those milestone moments where you start to run the clock backwards and cue the music and like, oh, where did this time? We were just bringing you home, and now you're going to be leaving. So it's allowed me to really focus on those things with her, because it's cliche that like it goes super fast, and it has. For my oldest one, it's really this, I think, joy that I have and pride in her about being as independent, way more than I would have ever, considered. And I don't know where that really comes from. It just started to happen. So, with the oldest one, you're very worried, and you're always watching every single movement, and what is she saying, and what does she mean, and who's she hanging out with, and and so every time, I was just thinking about this earlier, like every time she transitions either from grade school to middle school or middle school to high school, she's never really been like this super outgoing kid, and so there's this worry about her quietness. Like, is she really going to do well? Is she going to fit in? And then next thing you know, she comes home like second day of school and was like, I think I'm going to join this, and I have a meeting for this thing next week. And then, she's joined the band. She joined, chorus. She tried out and got into like the shows in 6th grade. And then when she, and it's like, next thing you know, it's like, I'm going to be in student council. Now I'm in the Gay Straight Alliance Club. And now, goes to high school, and now I'm on the flag team. And it was one of those, like, she would come home with a piece of paper and say, hey, I need you to sign this. Like, well, what am I signing now? And it's like, well, I just decided to do these things. So all that worry that I had and we had about, well, is she going to fit in? It's like, she just found her way.
That's awesome.
And so there were some times I'm like, well, do you really need me to do anything else? She's like, no, I'm fine. It's all right. It's cool. And so, this is coming up her last high school show. She's been in every one in high school. She was in every one in grade school. And I think when we're sitting in the audience and, if we can, obviously with COVID or just watching, it's like, it's such amazement that she's been able to kind of do this and find her own way. Her younger sister, completely different as a kind of a character, as kind of happens between siblings, and for her, I just watch, she's big in sports, and, and she's a good friend. I watch with her friend group and peer group and how nice she is and how she tries to make sure everybody can be a part of the group, and really try to be the negotiator, but, the go-between. And she really takes it hard when, someone's being left out. And, so that's been good for me to see her be that kind of person. And it's beyond really the sports stuff. It's just being a good human being. Yeah. If that, knock on wood, that lasts, but if it doesn't, I'm happy with so far how it's got to age 13.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's just neat when your kids in a positive way can surprise you. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. So now, concerning, with all these, school activities that your daughters are a part of, on the flip side of that, here you are daily involved in school activities, namely work. So as a teacher, How has your career as a teacher impacted how you parent?
I guess it starts really even before they were born. I was thinking about this too, that one of the most difficult decisions you ever make is a name.
Ooh.
Right? What are we going to name this thing? Right? We decided that we weren't going to find out the gender if we could help it. Right. And I know people are like, that's crazy. You know, how are you going to prepare X, Y, and Z? Are you going to have, this is obviously well before those weird gender reveal party.
Right.
I don't understand any of that. Right. So we made a deal that said, if it's a boy, I would name him. And if it was a girl, my wife would name him, though both of us would have a chance to offer up some, top 5 or whatever. But as a teacher, and I think, let's see, I was maybe in my 4th or 5th year teaching when my oldest was born. And how hard is it to find a name that's not attached to some kid that drives you freaking crazy, right? Because you're like, well, what about this? Nope, I had one of those. They're awful. No way, So that was my first kind of connection to it. But, and it wasn't really until my kids were older that I was running into kind of what my teaching experience was about. I've been teaching high school, pretty much my whole career. So the grade school stuff, I don't know any of that stuff, right? I'm not a professional in that area, but I also get a sense when I talk to parents, which I do a lot, and just understand that this kid in this moment is not necessarily just only about the kid in this particular moment. It's everything, right? It's the environment in which they're growing up. It's the fact that they're an older sister or they're a younger brother. Their family's going through, a divorce. It's and it's not always about this particular thing. So, parent teacher conferences are just as, for me, an educational experience because, I'm just collecting as much as I can from these other parents.
Right.
And not saying, obviously they have all the right equations, but there's things I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Yes, I'm definitely going to try this approach. And so I get a chance to do that, a couple times a year and just remind myself that, there's a lot of things going on in kids' lives. And so when it comes to my own kids, to be fair, and this will probably come up later, I'm not with them as much as I think I would like to be at times. So I just want to make sure that I kind of know what else is going on in their lives because, it might be a science grade right here, but it's really more than that. It's really more about, how you're dealing with your friends, how you're dealing with other parts of school. And, so I tend not to get too crazy about one particular moment because, the old cliche, it's a village, right? It's everything that's going into these kids. And it's a lot of stress. And obviously with social media as it is, it's crazier, so I'm just trying to keep an eye and an ear out for just trying to gather as much information I can before I feel like I think I know what's going on.
Yeah, huge.
That's a really unique, we'll talk about it later, but part of our motto is engaging. And that's a really unique way to be able to engage your kids. And I like that you don't shy away from that. So props to you on that. On not really the flip side of things, but kind of related to schooling, your girls are active. You've got one sports fiend, and then you've got extracurricular activities with music and show. How have athletics enhanced your life and your family's experience, but as well as the fine arts?
Yeah, it starts young. It was, I think, one of the craziest early weird memories I have was they both were in ballet. They did the little two-year-old, which is really me out there holding their hand and stuff like that. And then both of them were doing like this you can do a whole different show on the crazy world of competitive dance. And fortunately that was short-lived. And so right away, at least for my older one, I think I could probably tell that this was going to be maybe her life, what it is now, because she never would shy away and say, no, I'm not doing that, you know? And so to be out front, to be on, quote unquote, on stage in front of strangers and stuff like that, she was never really fazed by that. And now I can really see that, like, it has paid such dividends for her and her confidence, and, you know, to be out on stage 5 times a week in these shows and do, you know, sing and dance and all this stuff. It's been really good. And, you know, for her time management, you know, she burns it on both ends, yet she still has been achieving at a very high level. There are times where I really got to, I think, kind of cool her down a little bit, because I think she's trying to be too perfect, and, you know, how am I going to get everything done? And, you know, the calm person, he's like, just relax. Right. But then I think that energy that she started with at a really young age, like, that's really what drives her. So I don't want to get too far, like, just chill, man. Grades are stupid. You know, I want her to still keep doing that, because I think that's just who she is. But at the same time, you know, I have to really watch closely. For the younger one, sports is really, and really for both of them, all these events aren't really solo things, right? They're with groups of people. And I've been really happy with the older one, because she found her people. And that's always a struggle for every kid. And,
right.
You know, where do I fit? And so that's really helped her go through life. And now my younger one has done the same thing. It just happens to be through you know, soccer. She's found her best friends through soccer. And so much of her, I think, demeanor and character is coming out from that, the teamwork aspect, but also the friendship aspect. And, you know, I'm glad she made it, because it's still my favorite sport, soccer, but I'm glad she's not doing an individual sport. You know what I mean? Like, so you wouldn't get this with golf. You wouldn't get it necessarily with tennis, such a cutthroat business like gymnastics or something like that. You know, this is a true team sport, and I think it's been great for her development.
Yeah, I love it. And so you have both your daughters super busy with all kinds of wonderful activities that are related to team or school. Now, clearing all that away, so at home, as far as your time with your daughters, your time as a family, what are some of your personal favorite activities that you guys get to do as a family?
I think, like a lot of people, and I've heard on your guys' show as well, that COVID has been a bit of a blessing. So I teach. When my oldest was born, I was coaching at Centennial also, 2 sports. And I was also beginning master's program. And I finished my master's when the youngest one, I think she was maybe 1 or 2 years old. And still coaching 2 sports, teaching, and like, I don't even like that 5-6 year span was really a blur to me now. And then, you know, I'm still coaching now, but at the college level, and I'm a part owner of a business.
Okay.
And so COVID stopped everything, except perhaps the teaching part. Obviously, you know, schools kept going and we just got to transition. But my soccer schedule, everything, right, closed down. Unfortunately, our business is, you know, took a hit, still is taking a hit, because it's just a sport business, like an indoor facility.
Okay.
So, and had that not happened, I would have continued to do what I'm always doing. I just think I'm just going to grind, and you get so used to your own schedule, and and then obviously the kids' schedule. Well, all those things stopped. So what I found, like, I'm not a big arts guy, right? I could painting, whatever, take it or leave it. I don't really. My oldest one is a great artist. My wife is a good artist. I'm not. Right. And so my wife said, well, we should do these things. We're stuck at home. Let's try. And so she's like, we're going to have these craft nights. I'm like, oh, gee, are you kidding me? Whatever.
That's where the guest gear comes in, right?
Happy wife, happy life. So it's like, fine. So we were doing these like crafts specific for whatever the holiday was, right? So it's Easter egg painting time, and it's Valentine's Day, whatever. So she would say, all right, here's the crafts that we're going to do. Put your own individual, pizzazz to it, whatever. And then, we take pictures. She'd put it out on the Facebook and have people guess whose was whose, right? And we've probably done 10, I think, at different times of the year. And it's been great because for the first time in a while, and then continuous after that, the kids and myself put down our phones, right? It wasn't as though like we're having these, Brady Bunch conversations or anything like that. It's not that cheesy, but it was quiet, but things did come out, and awesome. And it was something that, I think they recognize that I'm not a big artist, but yet I still did it, and then I was kind of getting into it. I wouldn't say my artistic skills got any better, but it was a good, shut the world off for 2 to 3 hours. And now we've got crafts out the yin yang all around the house. But I look at them now because it's been a year, right? It's been a little bit over a year since we started, and I look at them now, and it's going to remind me all the time that we made the best, and I'm really thankful for my wife to come up with this. And of course, I'm going to throw a fit, but it was the right thing to do. And it really happened at a good time because my oldest one is leaving for school next year, and my youngest one, she's going to be in 8th grade next year, and she's going to be off doing her own thing. And, when I hear people say, God, I can't wait to go back to what we were before COVID, I don't agree with that because what I was before COVID, I don't think I like, when I step back away from it, I'm not necessarily always that happy because we just build our lives into such busy existence. So that's been the great one. And, before that it was trips and stuff like that. But even trips, as you guys know, it's like a NASCAR race, right? It's like, go, do we pack? What did we forget? And so even though, you guys are all together, it is not calming. Right. It is super stressful. And so, it took me a while to get used to it because I was so used to being too busy. But once I kind of accepted it, like, this is actually pretty good. I don't know if I want to go back to, obviously the health issues, what they are, but I was kind of glad that COVID stopped that and forced us to do these other things.
No, absolutely. And just kind of to that point, prior to COVID Palooza, really, my threshold as far as time with our 2 very active young boys, I could make it through the weekend with keeping most of my sanity, what is there, keeping that intact. But if we had like a 3-day weekend, all bets were off. That Monday, I was, pulling my hair out, see what happened. And so Monday, the 3-day weekends were I couldn't do it. And so now this has really expanded my horizons and built in some daddyhood stamina as far as being able to hang in there and, taking care of my own mental health so that I don't blow up or that I don't, fall off the deep end. Yeah. And so it's been really good as far as me being very intentional with how I'm parenting as well. So it's made me slow down and to pay attention to what's coming out of my mouth and how it comes out. So
absolutely. Yeah. Cause your roommates are going to be there tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
They're going to be there the next day, and it's not like they're going to go somewhere else and forget about what you said or did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I didn't shave just so you can then see all the gray hairs that are popping up all over the place to that particular point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been interesting for us because I'm in Indiana, and COVID doesn't exist in Indiana. If you ask 80% of Indiana Hoosiers, and
it just went around all of you guys.
It did, yes. So it's one of those things where it hit, and my family. I said it before. The best thing I ever did with my family was survive a pandemic together. And I truly mean that. And you hit every point that I could possibly make about that. We found a way through it, and we came out a stronger unit because of that.
Yeah.
And now I'm being in Indiana. I'm seeing it start to return back to normal, and I'm seeing our schedules start to return back to that hustle and bustle. And I'm thinking, man, I miss where we could just sit at home and hang out and do our thing and spend time together. So yeah, take advantage of having, COVID, because obviously we don't, and so it's it's frustrating because you see this constant disease and death and sickness, but at the same time you're seeing your family grow closer together, and that's just such a beautiful thing that can't be replaced.
Yeah.
And so with that said, our tagline is helping dads everywhere to engage, level up, and have fun being a dad. Before COVID, you can think before COVID, you can think during COVID. You can't think post-COVID yet because you're not in Indiana. But what's the greatest area of growth for you in improving as a dad, leveling up?
Oh boy, this, I struggle with this question specifically because I never feel like I know what I'm doing, let alone doing anything well, So, I'm just saying, like, what's that freaking Buddha knowledge? Every dad, go do this because that's the key. And I have no idea. I've purposely been trying to work on just not a rush to judgment, about a situation. And I don't want to sound like, or have people think that, well, he's just aloof to whatever's going on. That's not the case, right? I'm always trying to game out what the next thing that's going to come out of my mouth, and also like how it's going to play. If there's anything, I would say that's where I probably made, I hope, the biggest improvement in my life. I don't know if what episode you guys did. Somebody was talking about their anger management levels, and I have them, right? It's very, like, growing up, it was like angry,
right,
and immediately. And, it was coming through sports and everything else. And you can't do that as a dad, I think you can, there are some places where you can, because the after effects, aren't as heavy. But, and I think going back to your original point about teaching, it's the same thing. Like, you can destroy a kid, you can destroy, your relationship with that kid if you fly off the handle without truly thinking about the effects. And there's a lot of, and I've had tons of practice, obviously, in the classroom, I've made the mistake early on in my teaching career, student teaching, like taking things personally.
right.
And now it's just going to be this battle between me and this kid. And at the end of the day, it does nothing but harm. And, this isn't about ego. This isn't about, I'm going to be in control and I'm going to dominate the situation and you respect me because I am your dad or because I'm your teacher. This has got to be about, all right, I might be angry, which is a natural emotion, but at the same time, that you say the wrong thing, they're watching, whether you acknowledge it or not, and they're processing, all of those things. So I've had to just kind of sit and listen and don't rush to judgment, and be very, very cautious about what I say next and what I do next. I'm not perfect in that by any means. I get frustrated. I go, it just happened to me actually the other day when I was coaching a game, and and my kids pointed it out too, just real quick. I was very frustrated, and I kind of kicked over a garbage can. Now, granted, my kids were on the other side of the field, right? But there was a big crash. They knew. I even walked by, acted like it was a wind or something like that. I just needed to get something out. And they said something to me. And I'm like, God, dang it. They're watching. They're always watching. These kids always watching me. And I don't want to come off to them as this guy who can't control himself. And I definitely would never want to, target that at my own children.
Right.
Even though they do some things that I really want to get mad about, So that's to me a big thing. I gotta put my anger somewhere else. And like anything else, if you sit back and you breathe for 10 seconds, you're like, well, that's really not worth it. You're getting angry about. It took me a long time as a person to do that. And being a dad is definitely, I'm always thinking about those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think anger management from a daddyhood perspective is always a trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. You have no option but to just go for it and do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you've always got next time. And that's the beautiful thing about being a dad is your kids are still going to love you. Those apologies, they come and it's I'll do better next time, but it's always a trial by fire.
Oh yeah.
And it just makes me think of how much power our words have, for healing or for harming. You're right. Kids are always watching us, whether they're, students or our own children. I mean, they're sponges and they just absorb everything. Even little nuances they don't totally understand, they're still absorbing it.
Right. Especially now, like when we're trying to help them with homework, how frustrated I am with 7th grade science. You do not understand. And that's and that surprised me. It's like, I'm a smart guy. I can, I don't remember doing this stuff. But then the other one, like my high schooler, I really worry that she's going to find out that I'm not as smart as I say I am, because I have no idea the stats class. Forget it. I haven't used that part of my brain in 30 years, and so I have to keep reminding myself, don't fly out the handle. Don't curse out this teacher or the school about this new math business. Just breathe, try it, and because I got to, you still have to be rah-rah, right? You still got to keep building them up. And even though it's probably a natural thing to say, wow, this is stupid. This isn't how we did math when I was in school and it was fine. And But then what's she going to learn from that, right? She's either going to turn off from what it is now or hold anger towards her school, to her teacher, and perhaps a teacher that she really enjoys. And now am I pitting her against her teacher, her against, her teacher against myself? But man, there's a couple that's like, all right, I'm just going to walk out just for a minute. Got to catch my breath. And then we'll come back and give me another shot at this freaking 7th grade science,
From a mental health perspective, I call that a dot B. So a dot in writing is a period, you stop. And then B is the first letter of the word breath. You stop, take a quick breath, then you carry on. And that's so tough. Anger, I think, I wouldn't say universally, but very common amongst so many dads. Anger is an issue, an obstacle, overcoming our tempers. So kind of looking at the more macro look at fatherhood as far as dads go, what would you say currently in our society, what are some of the biggest obstacles dads are facing in these days?
I don't think it's outwardly said, but I definitely feel it, that are we expected to do and be all things, and do all things well, and maybe that's just something I told myself as I continue just to stack things up in my life, and how much it's so perverse to say, but how many things you do is like a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's a competition amongst men out there just in general, but for dads, well, of course I I have the best lawn. And of course, my kids are doing well in school. And of course, they're doing well in sports. And of course, I can hold down 3 different jobs and still, financially be okay. And of course, I'm saving money for the future and for college. And that's all the things that dads are supposed to do. Like, it's just, I don't know where it's written, but it feels real.
Yeah.
And I've fallen prey to that. Like, I've equated accomplishments, or what I think are accomplishments of holding down multiple jobs at a time, as if like there's a competition out there.
Right.
And if you, which is so messed up, because anytime you ask a dad, or, what do you really want more of? I want more time. All of us want more time to do something. Yeah. But then I find, like, well, that's weird, because we have more time, yet we just fill it with more things. So there's never really going to be enough time. And so is that next fallback position that, well, how many things have you done with your time? And how difficult it is to just sit and do something as silly as read, or do nothing.
Right.
And how I've had to battle this. No, sorry. Your 10 minutes is up. Get back to work. Because you've got now, I was just mentioning this to my students today. I had, in about a 3-hour span, I had about 100 emails between different jobs. Like, what am I doing? And somehow, slowly but surely, this was something that I just kept doing, because is that what dads are supposed to do? And it's messed up when I say it out loud, but how many of us fall into that? And how many of us are, even if they're not saying it, how many of us feel like other people are looking to us to be that, all those things, and how the stigma of, if a dad isn't doing something, he's a deadbeat. What's he, get up and do something. Like, that's got to be a struggle for so many. But I don't know how at times to get off that wheel, and then I think, well, I know when I retire, right, that'll be the time. But then you're like, well, what are you going to do with your retirement? What? Wait, I got to do something still? Yeah, because the expectation is you're not, there's no free time. And I don't know where that came from. I suppose if I look through the long history of manhood, of dadhood, or whatever, sure, which maybe is another podcast, as you guys will do, the history of dadhood.
You're the history teacher. We'll have you on for that one.
Yeah, no, you can see it, right? I think in a lot of ways it's ingrained in American society.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think we're always on the go, and you don't see that as much in other countries. And you see the relationships in those other countries so much stronger because of it, and so much more tight-knit because of it. Flipping gears a little bit.
Flipping gears?
Switching gears. I don't think I've ever flipped a gear. I've been driving for quite a few years now. Switching gears a little bit.
Sorry.
What has been one of your scariest moments as a dad?
It's always been about health. And it's been different scary moments depending on the age, right? I remember the scariest, one of the early scariest moves I had was, besides obviously bringing home a baby, like, I have no idea what to do with this thing, right? I'm going to break it and all that other stuff, right? But it was when, back at Marketplace Mall, that play area.
Oh yeah.
Right. That very, more than likely had 1 million different, viruses besides COVID, when you let your kids run around on that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I lost my oldest one. And so she was probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something like that. And it's just like, I'm notorious for being able to sleep anywhere. And so just give me some white noise. And of course, in the play area, it's just, that's all it is to me. So I'm just sitting there, it's nice and warm. And I kind of, just real quick. And I thought, oh, it's fine. I kind of, I don't know, it might've been 5 seconds. I don't know. And she had walked out and she had like disappeared.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Jesus, man. That's right up there. Now, granted, I think there was like an arcade or something back then next to it. So it didn't take me long to find her. But for that, 3-4 minutes, nightmare.
Oh my goodness.
And then there was a time, I don't know if I tell the story now, my wife might kill me, but there was a time when my oldest was really young and she was in the bathtub and she was bleeding. And we couldn't figure out where the source of the blood was coming from. But then, it's your first kid, what's going on? And we take her to the hospital and she ended up slipping or sitting in the tub on a bat toy that cut her leg, kind of up by like her butt cheek or whatever. And so first I'm like, okay, great. We've got it under control. We're in the hospital. Like that's just this weird, crazy freak accident. And then I was thinking, are they going to like arrest me for like this weird, cut that's on your kid's body? Like, what is, am I going to be seen as this other thing, this abusive father or whatever, man? Like all these scenarios were going on through my head. Like the cops are going to be there waiting for me to ask me questions about how this all happened. Yeah. And now it's like, it's really more like mental health worries that I have, especially for both of them. Like, is my oldest one going to be okay when she goes off to school? And seeing the things that like her and her age group of friends have gone through over the last couple of years, some really serious things. And as I said before, she's not always that open with me, with us as parents. So I always wonder, is her mental health in a good place? Just because the stuff that her and her peer group have to deal with as high schoolers. And then for the younger one, again, I think it's not necessarily about like physical safety, although she wants to be a skateboarder, which, okay, right. I mean, I come from that days of, well, you'll have to experience falling a few times in order to figure out how to do it right the same way that I did. But it's really more, again, about the stressors of being, a 7th, 8th grader in this crazy world of TikTok and social pressure. And I'm sure it's not as like doomsday scenario as I think as a lot of parents have in their head about what's going on in TikTok or whatever. But, you hear the stories, you see this stuff, and like there's predators out there and all this other stuff. So it's like, how is she doing with her mental health? And for the most part, I'll watch her and, we'll pay attention and she'll say some things to us that kind of give us an idea. But yeah, it's always been about their health that scares me the most.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know, just super quick, like the first scary moment for us with our oldest, who's 8 now, when he was about 1.5 or so, he'd had a lot of ear infections, a lot of fevers. And so when you have those fevers that spike, you have those febrile seizures that show up. So he was sitting on my lap. It was in the fall. And all of a sudden he started having a seizure out of nowhere. And I mean, that was one of the scariest moments of my life. And thankfully nothing, I mean, it turned out just fine. And he had another one, several months later that thankfully there were just 2. But yeah, health-wise, it's one of the scariest things.
Well, and to go back to the messed up thing I said about Daddyhood earlier, it's like that feeling of helplessness.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you just reminded me, because a couple of weeks ago, my youngest one, she was laughing about something. We were at the dinner table. She was laughing, and then she started like not laughing, kind of choking, laughing, choking, but more choking. And then I'm just like, what's going on? Can you breathe? Whatever. Well, her older sister had this interesting reaction of like, she was laughing because she was scared. And I'm freaking out, and we're not, and everybody's kind of freaking out at this moment. And eventually, we got her breathing under control and stuff like that. And she just said, she had something in her throat going down the wrong way, but it's just like, I can't do anything. right?
Yeah.
And it's that health issue is, you can try to protect them the best that you can, but at the same time, it's just like, oh, hang on for the ride, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's scary. I mean, no matter who you are. I work in the emergency department. I see it all, and you'd think that because I see it all, it's just old hat for me. But anytime something goes wrong with my kids, I am the first one that is the most scared. So because what can go wrong in my case. So yeah, it's just it is scary. So yeah, I think health is probably up there for us too on the scariest things.
Yeah, for sure. Now here's a question that I enjoy asking because it allows you, if you wish, to use your imagination. So I envision kind of like this mad scientist sort of guy with a lab coat in this dad laboratory, maybe a dadbratory. I don't know. Sorry, hokey. But he's putting together the perfect dad, and kind of getting these elements and these ingredients, putting together perfect dad, super dad. What are like the top 3 things about this dad, this super dad? What would he be like? What are like the top 3 things about him that you would want to see?
Sense of humor.
Good.
You gotta have it, man. Life is too damn serious.
Yes.
Now, I mean, you applied the wrong time. That certainly could be a problem. But
sorry, you cut your butt cheek.
yeah. No, really, Doc, it's not as serious as you think. And yeah, I've tried to use humor really throughout my life to just kind of diffuse. And maybe it's just a coping mechanism, but I think you really need to have a sense of humor to be a good dad. Humility. I think there's that feeling that you don't know everything and you can't control everything, and you have to be willing to continue to learn. And it's not as though like you don't know some things, obviously through experience or whatever, but I think being a dad changes every day. Because there's new issues that pop up every day, and it's that whole thing when you're young, you're like a new dad. It's like, okay, well, we'll read the books, right? What to expect when you're expecting or whatever, and then the rest of it is just like, who the hell knows, man? Because this is a very special moment in case, and but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't look and understand that there are some other people that have some ideas. Yeah. I'm not saying that they're exactly like yours, but I think you can and should apply because there's a lot of other people out there who are not, through some similar things.
Right.
And I appreciate you guys' podcast because you're looking at dadhood in a variety of ways and fashions. And even though, there's some commonalities, but there's a little tweak there over there at your house, which is different, and at your house, which is different. And we can all learn from that. And it takes a big person to say, you know what? I don't know. I don't have all the answers, and it's okay to look. Yeah. So I think being humble and having humility about this situation, this job, this existence is super crucial. And then the last one, I would say you would need to have good knees. My knees are shot. And I used to joke, when I was like, man, being a dad it's a young man's game, man, because I can't do a lot of things that I envision in my head, like we'll be out playing all the time. Well, now, like my kids physically passed me a long time ago. And, and it's been so hard. And I have the same thing with my own players. Like, I coach guys that are 19, 20 years old, and they're just like, this old man, he can't do it. It's like, mark my words, you're going to be there one day, and it tears me apart when like my youngest one, who is really getting into her sport and she's good and she keeps wanting to keep getting better. She's like, come on, Dad, let's go out and practice. I'm like, my knees are screaming at me like, you are such an idiot. Why didn't you take care of yourself better? So, it is kind of a joke, but at the same time, like the ability to just physically be a part of your kid's life has been really something I wish I probably, 20 years ago, when I really should have taken care of my knees, I probably should have done. But, but like in general, I would say, just be available, and help your kids out. But for me, boy, if I could just have better knees.
Better knees. So,
Yeah.
So humor, humility, and knees.
And new knees. Yes.
New knees. All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's actually knees are a good one. I've had a parachute failure actually, and because of that, I have knees that are they exist.
Right.
And yeah, it's tough sometimes. So that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
So your last question, you're able to be the most accurate meteorologist out there. You've got a forecast. What's your forecast for the summer? Any plans, trips? I know COVID kind of throws a wrench into everything, but
more crafts?
I think the craft work is going away for a while because and right or wrong, like as the reopening is happening here in Illinois, my youngest club soccer team is getting ramped up again. So what does that mean? If I was in my mid-20s, it would mean a wedding every weekend in the summers. Now it means soccer tournaments. So here we go back with that. Let's lay the calendar out. Where are we going to be from Friday to Sunday? Setting all that up. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I love watching my kid play, and it's a good, like, we all go, right? And we're friends with the other families and stuff like that. So it's like these really mini vacations in really exotic places like Peoria.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But it's just like a traveling caravan of stuff. So that's going to take really the first half of summer already on the books. My wife's family, every year, come hell or high water, unfortunately COVID killed it last year, they always spend a week together, all the cousins and stuff in Virginia. So we'll do that in July. Other than that, like I'm truly hoping that I can just spend as much time as possible with my oldest one before she ships off to college, whether she wants it or not. That's, the old me or older version of me would have been like, no, you're getting a job, right? You're going to, because that's what I had when I was, in high school and going on to college. I'm going to work. But this version of me is like, why would I ever want her to do that? Because, that's going to be less opportunity that we're going to have that, even though we're not going to, again, walk 10 miles a day and have these great whatever, I just want to be around with her for as long as I can until, she goes off to school, and who knows what's going to happen after that. But then the other thing is, and I kind of call myself now, we're in that Samus generation, in that I being a dad, but I'm also a son. And so like my dad's health is not in a good way right now. So trying to figure out he lives in North Carolina. So, how am I going to get down there and be available for him too? So, and then I also think that in a lot of ways, it'll be a thank you to him for, I probably didn't recognize it when I was a kid, and the things that my dad did for me. You don't really think about that when you're that age, but now as a father, I want to get a chance to just be with him and really thank him for laying that foundation for me as well, which I probably cursed almost every other day. It felt like when I was younger, but he did it well, and so that'll be my summer. My other job really kicks in on August 1st, and then my teaching job will kick in again in the middle of August. And geez, I just lost summer now that I just said it that quickly.
You're welcome.
Come on, COVID, come back. No, don't do that. But if we just have the COVID schedule without actual COVID, I am in.
I like that. Maybe we can try to arrange that.
I'm buying it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure being able to have you here on kind of the doorstep of your weekend. Thanks for carving out time.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah, just the fact that you were willing to hang out with two, fifth graders trying to put together a podcast. We greatly appreciate just your wisdom, your humility, just your perspective on daddyhood. We greatly appreciate that. It's pretty well known to most of our listeners, but our season 1 is actually barreling towards a close. The last episode will be aired on Father's Day, which will be kind of fun.
Okay.
And then season 2 will ramp up here towards the end of August. So when we get ready to put together a list of guests and people we're going to be asking, we would love to have you on again sometime during season 2. Just
sure,
greatly appreciate just your insight, Mark. Absolutely.
Always happy to do so. And oddly enough, my birthday is June 19th, which is always right around Father's Day.
Oh, yes.
It's kind of messed up. Yeah.
That's one day after my wife's birthday. So that's a good month to me.
Okay.
So right on.
Except for a dad, because it's always one present. Like what's, I got to really separate these two.
Yeah. Here's your all-in-one, all-inclusive gift.
Right. There you go. Here's your tie. Enjoy that.
Yes. All right. Well, man. Well, any last words before we wrap up for today, Mark?
No, it was a pleasure, guys. Thank you. It was truly an honor to be a part of it. And, like I said, I've always enjoyed listening to you guys' stuff because there's some really good insight out there.
Absolutely. Our guests, including people like you, get to provide the inspiration and the motivation. We're just instigators. So thank you. So have a great rest of your evening. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you sometime later, Mark.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Take care, man. What a great interview with Mark Sikora. Man, it's almost, I feel like this is, everyone you encounter is like, hey, you're my best friend. You're my best friend. We keep on saying, man, this is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite episodes, and truly this is one of them. I really enjoyed his matter of fact, down to earth approach. He talks about humility, very humble, and not pretentious, doesn't, puff himself up to be something he's not. He definitely talks about his own, his shortcomings, and yet I think maybe he doesn't even know it, but he just gave us a whole ton of wisdom and knowledge in one interview. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard, typically anyways, to cut down episodes and make them fit and make it work. I don't know how you're going to cut anything out of his interview. By the time people hear this, it will likely have happened. But just know that there is so much knowledge. We could probably make 2 episodes out of it.
Yes.
Because he just brings so much to the table.
You know what? I'll do when I edit? I'll just cut out everything that you and I say. We'll just have it be the Mark Sikora show.
That sounds great to me. He's got it all there. He hit that home run and then some.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that we talked about that is really important, I think, to both you and I, John, is the power that we have with our words for hurting or for healing. John, I want to offer you an opportunity here because there's something at stake here for you. There's an award if you are able to earn it. What is a moment within this last week where you were able to do something with the power of your words to encourage, to heal, to lift up? What's something you did with your words?
Well, it's actually something that was a daddy fail initially. Okay. And it ended up being a daddy win. And I actually messaged you about it. We had a situation where my stepdaughter loves slime. And she loves to make slime. She likes to make it in different ways. She is like this mad scientist of slime, and I absolutely despise this stuff. It gets everywhere. It's messy. It's gross. It feels weird. I just don't like slime. And part of slime, in many cases, is glue, specifically Elmer's school glue. And so we got her a big tub of Elmer's school glue. I walked into the kids' room at one point this last week, and my son was sitting in a puddle of Elmer's school glue on the carpet. And I did not handle that I didn't. I hollered at my eldest stepdaughter. I hollered at my son because I found out that he was the one who spilled it, even though he didn't know he spilled it. It was just all around. It was a tear down the walls, bust through the doors, daddyhood moment. But I was able to solve that also with words. And I was able to talk myself down and say, hey, daddy screwed up. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Accidents happen. This is not your fault. It just is a thing. And so we went from two kids who are distraught over this glue on the carpet to two kids who are outside playing with daddy within a matter of 10 minutes. Because I was able to, one, talk myself down, which is huge.
Yes.
Because that is something that I struggle with is my anger. So I was able to bring myself down. And then I was able to say, hey, daddy screwed up. It was an accident. You need to not worry about that. And you need to just be a kid. And part of being a kid is accidents happen. And we're going to clean this mess up. In fact, daddy's going to clean the mess up, because it's just a thing, and I shouldn't have lost my mind over it. And so I was really able to repair what I broke rather quickly because of judicious word use.
Dude, so you have earned an award big time. So it is Let Your Voice Be Heard. This is one of those screaming goats. So, John, I hereby bequeath to you the Screaming Goat, the Let Your Voice Be Heard award for bringing healing with your words. So nicely done, John. I definitely commend you on that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. You're going to thank all the little people, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay, good. All right. And it's amazing how much power there is with our words. So that's huge, and that's really cool that ties in with our interview with Mark. So that's perfectly done. So very, very cool, man. So Daddyhood rocks. So we're on almost the last lap for season 1, and a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning for both of us on the technical end of things, for the how to edit things down well. As far as sometimes we've had to do solo interviews, things like that. But man, what an awesome ride so far, and we only see things getting better. What is your dad forecast for this weekend? What you gonna do?
The dad forecast got shifted a little bit for us in a way, but I think we're going to make the most of it and try and just spend some intentional time with my stepdaughters, who those are my girls, those are my heart. And so I am excited to spend just some extra time with them, getting to talk about some tough stuff that happened this week at school, and some interesting conversations that they had at school. So being able to dig through that with my oldest stepdaughter is going to be good. And then talking about the exciting fact that kindergarten's coming up for my youngest stepdaughter,
awesome.
And she can't wait. So that is my dad forecast. You have a fantastic dad forecast as well.
One thing, so people always remark, like when I post on social media pictures of me putting my sons to work in the yard, or doing things outside. Right now, they are eager to work, so I'm taking advantage of it. So the fact that they're willing to get their hands dirty and putting together flower beds, garden beds, helping me put up a fence in the backyard, they're all for it. And then we'll reward ourselves with like a nice fire pit fire and things like that. So tomorrow, weather permitting, it's supposed to rain, I think. A couple things we're gonna, I think, finish up garden bed number 2 of 2, and get that ready. And if we have time, go ahead and plant some stuff, which we're super excited about.
Awesome.
And then there might be some grandma time tomorrow, I think. So coming from out of town, so we're gonna see how that goes. But grandma time is always good. So yeah, dad forecast is looking pretty good. So I have some free labor and then some relational time with grandma. So good stuff.
Awesome. You can come put a fence up at my house next.
Hey, absolutely. You're welcome. I mean, I'll have them come do that for you.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, hey, what a great episode. And we're so glad that you've been a part of hanging out with us and with Mark today. No matter how you listen to us, how you take us in, whether it's through YouTube on BK Miller channel, or whether it's through anywhere you find podcasts, we want to be everywhere because we're just that big and stuff. We're at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Find us there. The Daddyhood Rocks podcast, and then anywhere for the podcast platforms, for Anchor, for Spotify, Pandora, that sort of thing. We are here to encourage you, and we want to be accessible from as many different angles as possible. So join us, follow us, comment, interact with us, because we don't bite. We're pretty friendly for the most part. So we love to see who you are and see what your Daddyhood stories are. So with that said, we love having you on with us for this journey. So keep on hanging on for the wild ride as we finish up season 1. And remember, as always, Daddyhood rocks.